Years of an interaction with Andrew Wolnez, one of my predators. As you can probably tell, it's raining. Pretty heavy. Now, as I look through these, I'm reminded that the majority of true crime is done by women. The majority of it intentionally paints men as predators. The majority of these women are drinkers. The majority of the people who watch their channel are women between the ages of 35 and 55. What kind of women are those? Those are the women who finally hit the wall. They realize that they can't manipulate people anymore. All they have left is a bottle of wine and the hope that they might be able to use something that they learned to get away with whatever it is that they committed. It's unfortunate that with none of the mandated reporters doing their jobs between 2016 and 2018, what did that result in? Death of Natalie Bollinger. That's right. Now, the last video I played was about victimizing men. About the fact that the majority of sex offenders are in fact and indeed women. That's right. Women are the most likely sex offenders in this country and in Canada, in Great Britain, and in Australia. All four of these countries, the person that you are most likely to be sexually assaulted by is your own mother, even more so than your own father. Now, this one that I picked is supposedly a documentary and not a true crime entertainment thing, so we'll listen to it. As many of you know, if you've paid attention to my channel, the majority of children killed are killed by their mothers. 59%, almost 60%. Women are more likely to get away with it, especially in a position of power. Because, oh no, she wouldn't. A woman would never do that.
Be prepared, right from the very start and throughout, for frank and confronting descriptions of child abuse that some viewers may find upsetting.
Yeah.
Okay, Chris, you ready?
Yeah. So it means my mouth is dry as hell.
Rolling.
I don't know really why Eunice did all this stuff to us, all this abuse. I don't think she was insane. I don't think she was particularly mad. Just evil.
Yeah,
Pure evil.
exactly. We taught them to be this way. By letting them get away with everything, by pretending that women cannot be perpetrators.
30-year-old Christopher abused by his foster mother.
Every
Eunice,
woman
from the
preys
age of
on this.
3.
Every
I
single
had
one.
a lump in the bottom part of my jaw, which was they found a
Let's not say
little
every
chunk of
woman is a
metal and
sexual
some wood
predator.
debris from well, we can only assume it's from where Eunice used to ram things into our mouth. One time she put a steak knife in there. I remember it hitting the back of my teeth. And one of the things I found when they were pulling all this debris out was a tiny little triangle of metal. And one of the doctors thinks it's a knife tip.
I was born in Cheltenham. The house I lived in, my parents didn't take care of it. There was no carpet on the floors. There was the kitchen was absolutely abysmal. It was a place I was happy to move out of.
Christopher was taken into care at the age of 3 and went to live with respected foster mother and devout Jehovah's Witness, Eunice.
I remember the first day arriving at Eunice's. Eunice picked us up in a big yellow Volvo. To me, this was the most exciting thing ever because I was obsessed with cars. And you have to drive through the countryside to get to Tewkesbury. It was my first proper trip to the countryside. It was amazing. When I rolled up at the house, there was a big green lawn, there was some swings. I'd never been on a swing before, so this was like the most magical thing ever to me. And I remember just sitting in the sandpit and just feeling the sand on my feet and all new sensations at the time. It was a dream come true for a kid who had left Cromwell Road, the worst road in Cheltenham. So, yeah, really happy memories at the start.
Christopher was now part of a big family and had 2 new sisters, Charlotte and Victoria.
From the get-go, Eunice was very strict, but very loving. We were Jehovah's Witnesses, so there was a certain level of discipline. But the first time she crossed the red line, as such, was the chocolate incident. Some chocolate went missing in the house. We were taken up into Charlotte's bedroom, and we made stand in a semicircle in front of Eunice, and she went to each one of us and like, "Did you take the chocolate? No. Did you take the chocolate? No." But at that point, Eunice got a chair leg. It was a gnarly old Victorian chair, but the legs had come off, and she got one of those, and we all stood barefoot in front of her, and she just whacked the top of our feet. Bang. Bang, bang. It was the first time I'd ever felt real pain. And I remember dropping to the floor straight away because the pain was shocking. None of us knew quite how to deal with what had just happened. It wasn't until the next day when my sister and I were going to have a bath, and we saw the cuts on our feet, and I put my foot in the water and screamed. It was just an open wound, and I think at that point we knew something had happened. Something had changed in our lives.
This is where we grew up. That's the street I lived on. Those trees down there where me and my little sister used to go and hide when my mum was kicking off.
35-year-old Katrina grew up in Oldham with her little sister, Dad John, and Mum Susan.
I tried desperately to love my mum, but no, I didn't love her. My mum was evil. She frightened me. I didn't dare breathe the wrong way around her in case I got slapped or punched. And she'd regularly say she gave us life and she could take it away just as easily.
Katrina was mentally and physically abused by her mother throughout her childhood. But 3 years ago, she finally took her mum to court.
I may not have brought you into this world, but I could sure as hell take you out. Then he showed that he's entirely incapable. He tried assaulting me from the back one time. One time. I lifted him over my head. He said to let him go, so I did. And he hit the floor and fucked up his knee. He should have kept his nasty cockbeaters off of me. Why was he assaulting me? Over my mom. It made her happy.
March 2018, she was sentenced and she was given a 2-year suspended sentence by the judge. I believe she should have got a harsher sentence, but because of her ill health, she was given a 2-year suspended.
Today, Katrina has returned to the estate she grew up on to show her friend Carrie where the abuse happened.
It'd always start after she drank. She likes to drink a wine. She's like drinking a few beers, and then she'd just...
Like Shannon Alvarado. Shannon Alvarado is a highly abusive person, but she's not physically violent.
Off with my dad, at which point I used to run upstairs with my sister and we'd barricade the door. My mum she slashed at me with knives. She used to drag me out of bed by my hair and drag me all over the house. Slap, punch, kick, bite me. We hid weapons like knives or anything that she could use.
My mother and my father were both physically abusive. They both physically abused me differently. My mother would try to slap me as many times in 5 seconds as she could. Or 10 seconds. Or 15 seconds. However long she was slapping me until she got tired of slapping me because her hand hurt. My dad, when he assaulted me, he wanted to lecture me. See, here's the thing, is that just like rape, physical assault is a matter of control. My dad liked to sucker punch me in the stomach. He loved the sound that came out of me. I could see it in his face when he did it. And he'd punch me in the gut, and while I was trying to recover my breath, he'd just keep on carrying on, preaching at me. And when I caught my breath, he'd do it again.
A weapon against us.
But sometimes, Katrina was caught unprepared for an onslaught of violence.
When my mum tried to drown me, I was 11. So it was Sunday night before school, and I took myself for a bath. And I'd run the bath, and I was laying in the bath washing my hair, and I heard her come banging and barging up the stairs, and she just flung the bathroom door open. She said, "I'm washing your hair." I said, "You're not, come wash my own hair." She went, "I'm washing your hair." And then she got hold of my hair, she got hold of my head, and she pushed my head under the water. And I just remember not being able to breathe. I was splashing around and trying to get her off me. And I had to bite her hand. I had to almost bite through her hand to get her to let go of me. And I was screaming, and I grabbed the towel and ran into the bedroom, just stayed in the bedroom. I was so scared. That's the first time I honestly thought she was going to kill me.
Katrina was abused as a child by her monster mother Susan. Today she's back where she grew up with her friend Carrie to try and put to bed the demons of her past.
I mean, my little sister would run up the street and it would be pitch black, Then we'd come out through the grass there into a little den here. And once we knew everything was clear, we'd like play Robin Hood in the trees and climb the trees and just hang around there until she'd passed out.
Did you not wish that somebody had asked you what you were doing? Because I think as a parent, if I saw two little girls at that time in the morning going past my window, I'd be like, what is going on? Why are you going down there?
I mean, we had two lovely neighbours who did take us in regularly, and they encouraged us to ring Childline. And Mum, unfortunately, they couldn't have children. My mum would stand in the back garden shouting over the fence, "You fucking eunuch." And in the end, they moved because even they got sick of the abuse. It's ridiculous. So yeah, people did try to help very early on. But would you challenge someone like that? The times I said, I'm telling the police. And my mum would say to me, do you know what happens to little girls like you in social care? They get messed about with by nasty men.
In cases where mothers harm children,
Nasty
we
women.
see that domineering impact of control. In the case of Katrina's mother, we see that she uses the fear of what the outside world will do. If you leave me, you will be taken into care. Leave me, you're going to be sexually abused. So that makes a child think, well, I need to stay here because this is better than what the outside world will do to me.
Did you not wonder why your dad weren't coming after you, or your dad weren't trying to stop this and protect you, or coming finding you after you'd been here for so long?
He was restraining her or taking the blows so we could escape.
Katrina's dad died unexpectedly in November 2018.
Right, her father.
That woman broke my dad. When I found him dead, Carrie, on the bathroom floor, even though I knew he was dead and I wanted him not to be, the worst thing about finding him was that he was covered head to toe in scars from literally head to toe in scars where she'd slashed him, she'd stabbed him. And that was my dad. That was my dad she did that to. I'm sorry.
That's what we do. We take the pain so you don't have to.
I believe he could have done a lot more. And I was angry with him for a very long time. But my dad was as much of a victim to her as what myself and my sister were. She broke him. She absolutely broke him. She was a bitch. I fucking hate her. What she did to him.
She's such an amazing person, Kat. She's so loving, and if you're down, she will support you, even though she's been through all these horrible things. She will give you something of her to help you through things. And I think if I'd been through that,
I'm still going through it. It's not from my mother or my father anymore. My mother's dead, thank God. She died less than a week ago. She will never hurt anyone ever again. Male victims are not allowed to speak up. We're victimized for speaking up. We're told that we just need to ignore it. We just need to let it go. We just need to move on. But unlike this woman, I'm still going through it every day. Every single day. I have to be afraid of predators. every single day. I have to be worried about predators like Andrew Wolnez, Tim Beeson, Ted Bollinger, Brian Schwartz, Michael Albert, Andrew Witcher, Kenneth Zarecki, and a whole slew of women who helped them get away. Women are the most likely perpetrators in every type of crime. But arrest records and convictions show that women get a slap on the wrist for destroying our lives. We're expected just to get over it. When we're abused daily, I'm still kind to people. But if you rip me off, you take advantage of me, or you threaten to kill my friends and family, just remember your days are fucking numbered, you piece of shit. All these people wanted to make the suggestion that I kill you. I don't want you dead. I want you all in prison, setting an example for the world to see.
I could be the person that Cat is.
I'm driving to the gym. Our gym's open 24/7, so I have been known to go down there at 3 a.m. This is where I go to regain some mental clarity.
Christopher lives a life full of pain, caused by the abuse he endured as a child from his foster mother, Eunice.
It's very easy for me to concentrate on the physical wins I've had, but actually most of Eunice's damage was in my brain. I suffer flashbacks. My biggest problem is flashbacks. I get, on average, 2 hours sleep, because as soon as I lay down in bed, I am just thinking
Every night.
every piece of abuse that Eunice did to me.
It's not just Eunice.
Feeling the burn.
I have nightmares about Robert Farnsworth. I have nightmares about Bundy. He's one of the guards at the prison in Lincoln, Nebraska. I have nightmares about almost all of the staff, because all of them were abusers, every single one of them. Every single person who works at Lincoln Correction Center in Lincoln, Nebraska, every single one of them are predators. Not that you care. I have nightmares about Andrew Wolnez. I also have nightmares about Eileen at the First Christian Church. And how dismissive she chose to be. I have nightmares about being assaulted by Stephen L. Stephanides at the hospital here in Tillamook. I have nightmares about making hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of calls, trying to get help. Then I realized they're not nightmares, they're flashbacks. And I go and I check the evidence to make sure I'm not going crazy. And it's there. The evidence shows that I'm not crazy. It shows that I've been gaslighted more than anyone else that any of you have ever met. And not a goddamn one of you is ever gonna give a shit. Because I have a dick. I have nightmares of Scottsbluff County Jail. I have nightmares of Rollins Police Department, Rollins Sheriff's Department, and the abuse at their jail. What was I trying to do? I was trying to turn in female predators. You can't do that. It makes them angry and they lie and the cops listen to them.
From exercise is one of the ways Christopher copes with the memories of his childhood.
Yes, I know it's time to go home when I feel the same pain level as almost breaking my collarbone when Eunice smashed my collarbone up. And it's actually that injury, that the ache of that is telling me I've reached the level I need to be at. It doesn't make sense that I'm here to feel pain. But I still need that pain. It's part of who I am now, and that may not make sense at all to people who haven't been through it.
All his life, he's felt pain.
If we don't let them hurt us,
but he
we're
was
bad.
also physically abused. And often people say that when the physical abuse happens, there's almost a sense of relief because they are building up, they're afraid that what is coming next. So it becomes that the physical pain is the point where, oh, okay, it's over. So they're connecting the release of pain with a release of the fear.
When I'm not feeling that pain, that freaks me out.
Violent and emotional torture is not the only abuse some children have to endure at the hands of their mother. For some, their childhood is stolen by a sexual predator. 1 in 3 children who have been sexually abused don't tell anyone at the time and can't face the trauma until they reach
far more than
adulthood.
that.
Hello? Hello? Right.
4
How
of
you
every
doing,
2,000 men sexually abused
Right, hence what's the text of the
try
other
to
day?
turn it in.
Look, it's all shit from the fucking past, isn't it? But your shit from
At
your
least they claim it. And of course, then you want to throw the past bullshit nice. That's how cruel you are. A male victim isn't allowed to come forward. You're allowed to be traumatized for your entire life because some ugly guy looked your direction in a fucking parking lot. But when we are actually abused, all of you dismiss us. There are no good women. None. Certainly not in this country. And good luck finding a good man. Because we get sick and tired of being victimized into nothing. We've got 2 choices at that point. We can either commit suicide or we can become predatory back. Because not a goddamn one of you cares to help us to turn it in. All of you try to talk us out of it.
It's my present, and I've tried to talk to you about it. You don't listen. You say, oh, why am I like the way I am? Is there any wonder with everything I've had to go through? Because I shouldn't have had to have gone through half the stuff I've gone through in my life.
In 2015, 36-year-old Daniel recorded a phone call he made to his father, confronting him about the abuse he had suffered as a child by his stepmother, Annette.
So that is a tattoo that Lady Gaga had designed for the survivors of sexual abuse. And so when I saw it, I thought, well, I'll get that for myself, just to remind me of everything that I've gone through. So I don't class myself as a victim, I class myself as a survivor.
I know why you...
Now here's the thing about that dumbass. We get abused for even saying victim. How dare we say victim? That means we have the victim mentality and must have chosen to be victimized. Lan Engline wanted to throw tantrums at me because I said victim instead of survivor. So she played it off like that meant that I wanted the abuse. This is not fucking okay. Nobody is gonna fight harder for your children than me. None of you parents, none of you care about your children as much as I do. Not a single parent on this planet. Do you like hearing me say that? I'd give my life up for a stranger. You wouldn't even give up a potato chip.
Where? Because you were protecting you. Then who was protecting me? Where was my parents then? So I had no one. I didn't have mum. She wasn't in my life, so I only had you.
Daniel went to live with his father at the age of 6 when his parents split up.
I don't know the whole scenario in depthly. I just know that that marriage broke down and he did get custody for whatever reason, and it was just a normal loving relationship.
But all that changed when Daniel's father met Annette and she became his stepmother.
I can't change what's happened in the past, Daniel. No, I've not asked you. I wish the fact that I could, because I tell you, I really do wish the fact that I could.
It'd be nice if his father would shut up and fucking listen, but he won't. He's just gonna continue saying this obsessive bullshit. This isn't okay. People don't like that I recorded it. When I went to people about abuse, when I confronted them about the abuse, what did they do? Played victim, talked over me, told me I just needed to forget about it. I just needed to move on. I just needed to move somewhere else. This man's father is shit.
I believe they've met like online or some sort of advertisement, I believe. But I guess in my dad's eyes, he just wanted another mother figure for me.
You did stuff to make that happen back then, Dad. So don't be telling me, don't know what happened back then, because there are times that you made them things happen. Because that was what she wanted to do.
I do remember how it first started. We had played Frustration. And I remember it, I can't remember if it was Annette or my dad, I think it was Annette who'd said, we're going to make it fun. and it was where we would it would turn into a strip. So we'd take off clothes for whoever was losing, and I don't think I was completely naked. I think I had some clothes on. She was certainly all naked. If I look back on it now, I think it was a test to see how I would perhaps react to the situation and just how much they could do or get away with, maybe. It was the start of what was yet to come.
Annette's so-called tests quickly moved on to something more sinister.
How, or rather why I was told to go into bed, I can't recall. Other than I'd be told to do things, she would do things to me. Both my dad and I would have had intercourse with her that particular day. And I guess the easiest way to explain it would be like a threesome type of situation, except for obviously I would have been 11. I obviously would have been unsure on what to do, but I think at the time I just thought that's what happened in normal houses and behind closed doors.
There is nothing in the behaviour of Annette that suggests she had any intention of being a loving, caring stepmother to Daniel, because there was no love and warmth. It was very sexualised from a very, very early start in the relationship. So for me, her intentions immediately were to abuse that boy.
I was young and naive. I didn't know what was going on back then wasn't of the norm. It wasn't until I got older that I realised it shouldn't have happened.
Daniel, I am sorry that episode actually took place. I am. And I can't explain how it came about or anything else. I know it wasn't instigated by me, but I ended up getting drawn into it, and I thought, why am I doing this?
Yeah, but you did though.
I know, and I don't know why. I really don't.
Daniel, the long-term effects of this have been devastating. He was raped by a female sex offender, but he was raped by a female sex offender in the presence of the man who was supposed to look after him. His father was there. His father was actively involved, and he should have protected Daniel from this woman.
There were obviously other instances, and
my mother should have been there to protect me, but she got Munchausen by proxy. My father should have protected me. It's about power and control with both of them. Both of them are predatory by nature. Neither of them should have ever had children. And I firmly believe that I was lucky to be born a man. Because if I'd have been born a woman, my dad probably would have sexually assaulted me. He's a fucking pervert. Did my father ever sexually assault me? No, he committed offenses. But it's okay, isn't it? Forcing your child to make porno sites. You gotta be fucked up to do that.
memories is clear as day, and there are other things that I think it's just too much for me to bear, and I'd go into deep depression. I've made many attempts of suicide over the years as a way of not being able to cope.
Christopher was taken into care at the age of 3 and went to live with foster mother Eunice, who abused him and his siblings throughout their childhood.
I'm told Eunice burnt all the photos. I've got a couple of photos of me as a kid. Photos, my only 2 photos of what I looked like when I was a kid.
As the years went by, concern welfare of the children were raised.
People were starting to notice. People were starting to notice cuts and over her abuse strategy. So it was a lot more beatings in places which couldn't be seen.
To cover her tracks, Eunice took all the children out of school and moved them to the country.
After we moved into the farmhouse, the abuse ramped up quite a bit. The drownings probably happened weekly. The beatings were daily.
That's right. A position of power. And once they've got you there, they know that they own you. There's nothing you can do. Their fear of being busted goes down, and the rate of criminal activities goes up. The abuse increases, and nobody cares. Nobody cares. A woman can't be a predator. And a Jehovah's Witness? Who would possibly believe that a believer of God, especially a female, would be capable of child abuse?
We were starting to be starved at this point as well. This is the farmhouse we moved into. Just above the back door is the room that I got locked in with my sister, and we got starved for, God, over a week. I remember eating those bits of newspaper and stuff. We were just eating anything we could find in that room, but it was a stripped down room because it was being reconditioned. So it was just bare floorboards and a light in the corner. One day she did bring some bread up, but when you haven't ate for a long time, we ate the food and puked it straight up.
Yep.
And she laughed and then told us to eat that. So we ate that. And luckily we held that down, or it would have just carried on. We were given water on a few of the days, but we probably went 3 days without water. But a couple of days you start getting hallucinations. And I remember looking at the one corner of the room and it just folding. It was almost wobbling in and out, and it terrified me because I thought it was something spiritual. We've been told, anything magic is the devil's work.
The power of using faith, using religion, is that it is unquestionable. Literally, it is used to put the fear of God into Christopher. So, in addition to controlling him, it's also a further element of emotional abuse because he's terrified of what the outcome could be.
You have to understand almost how much power Eunice had over us to understand our feelings for her at the time. She was a god to us. She was, there was no right or wrong. She was the only answer. It was Eunice's way or no other way. And if we couldn't do it Eunice's way, we would
be hurt.
Going against Jehovah. And if we went against Jehovah, we deserved all the discipline.
So who did you blame for this predicament
Ourselves. All that abuse that was happening to ourselves.
We're told it's our fault. We chose it.
We brought it on with our behaviour. The starvation ended just as weirdly as it started, with no real reason or no ending. A sandwich got brought up and she said, "You can come downstairs now." There's a lot of sadness within these photos. A lot of stuff that shouldn't have happened.
Why don't you delete them?
I think if I deleted them, I'd be deleting the only evidence that I actually had a childhood at all.
This is at Christmas in my back garden at home. my dad and my sister and myself, and then my mum was on the end of this but tore her off because I don't want us to be there. Can't even look at her. I do get anxious. Very, very anxious. Just feel... It's very hard to describe the feeling because it's just a mixture of emotions and it is overwhelming. And what I used to do and still do occasionally is just break down in tears and cry because there's no other way of handling it.
The thing that they struggle to get over, the thing that they struggle to heal from is how did they do that to me? How did they do that consistently, day in, day out? That is what causes long-term trauma because it's inside their head. It's inside and they don't know how to understand anything that happened to them because of that drip, drip, drip effect.
Now, this lady is mentally fucking retarded, but she has some letters before her name, after her name, so she wants to spout bullshit at us. Psychobabble. It's all bullshit. It's all psychobabble.
Of the emotional abuse.
When I look at pictures of myself, I feel sorry for that little girl in that picture. And I want to reach into that photograph and pull out that little girl and hold her and tell her that everything is going to be okay and that the monster will go away.
When Katrina reached 16, she was thrown a lifeline. She could legally leave home and her abusive mother behind her.
My mum and dad had no idea that this was going on. My younger sister did. And I felt terrible. I felt terrible that I would be leaving her, but I just couldn't carry on anymore. So in May, when we was doing our GCSEs, my dad was on his way to work and he said, "Are you coming?" And I said, "I'm getting the later bus because my exams start later." I didn't have any that day. And I arranged with a friend to come and meet me. And my sister went to school and I could see how upset she was because she knew exactly what was happening and I was heartbroken. But I packed my backpack with my schoolwork and 3 bin liners and that's when I left home. And I got my own place at 17. My sister came to live with me.
What is fascinating about Katrina is that despite the emotional and physical abuse that she got from her mum, despite being 16 and probably having a very low self-esteem because of the abuse from her mother, she had a resilience, a strength that is remarkable. She was able at that young age...
She was allowed
to go and seek approval to have adult status so she could get her own flat.
Katrina later used that strength when her father was in crisis at the hands of her mother.
She was allowed. There's
she accused my dad of rape. She accused my dad of rape and that my younger sister was a result of that rape. After sitting there listening to this load of lies, and I remember thinking, I can't do this anymore. Can't do it.
So scared for her father's welfare, Katrina knew she had to finally do something to stop her mum.
So the only option I had, along with my younger sister, was to go to the police station and report my mum for the abuse that she subjected myself and my sister to as children.
But they're girls, so they
Susan Speed stood trial
almost.
And was found guilty in 2018 of child cruelty. She was given a 2-year suspended sentence for the crime she committed 18 years prior.
I would have loved for her to go to prison.
Now, are we not establishing a trend here? Canada, the United States, Great Britain, Australia, women predators getting suspended sentences or no sentences at all. Because these are girls, you're more likely to listen. What about the boys? You get to see in my life what happens when a boy comes forward. That's why I say that I'm the only good man I know. There is no man that I know that is not a coward.
Deal well, I'd have absolutely loved that. But I honestly didn't expect anything. I expected us to get away with it. Even in court, when my sister and I read out our victim impact statements and we looked her in the eye and said, this is how you've made us feel. You are this person. And she just shook her head and just completely expressionless. I think she's completely devoid of any emotion other than hate. Why? I don't know, and I'll never know. And that was hard to accept when I was younger. I accept now that I'll never know why.
But for her, the pain ended.
From the age of 11, Daniel was sexually abused by his stepmother Annette in the presence of his father.
And just to be clear, it never happened before Annette and it never happened after. It was only in the relationship with Annette. So that's how I know it was something to do with their relationship as to why this happened.
Daniel's father admitted to the abuse when Daniel confronted him 23 years later during this phone call.
It's a horrible black period in my life, which I hate.
That black period you say you don't like is very much a memory I can't get rid of.
I had recorded my conversation with my dad, not maliciously. I had an iPhone at the time, and I had downloaded a few apps, and one of these apps was one where it records like ingoing and outgoing conversations on your phone. One of the things that we had in this heated conversation was what had happened to me through my, the instances with my dad and Annette.
At the end of the day, you should have been my father and realised then I was hurting, but you didn't. All you cared what you did.
So what do you want to do then?
Not that I'm trying to get into trouble. I just needed you to admit to me. I don't know, Dad. I really don't.
Daniel had kept his dark secrets to himself as a child, and as an adult, was still struggling with the same demons, as to why he couldn't reach out for help.
I didn't know how to talk about it or who to talk about it with. I think at the back of my head, who would believe me? And ultimately it's my dad. And I thought, if I didn't have him, I'm going to have no one. But I went to the police after a conversation with my best friend. She had said, well, why don't you pursue it? At least then you'll have no regrets. And maybe this will be the closure that you need.
The phone call led to Daniel's father being taken in for questioning.
He apparently broke down crying and admitted from get-go 95% of everything I had said.
2 years later, Daniel was in court fighting for justice. Throughout the proceedings, Annette Breakspear pleaded her innocence.
The police had spoken to me to make sure that I was prepared for the worst because my dad had already pleaded guilty. So if the jury had decided that they didn't believe everything that was presented to them, then my dad would have still had a charge, whereas she could have potentially have got off.
Do you remember her demeanour in court?
I didn't see her. I had a screen up because I didn't want to see my dad in case I wasn't able to explain everything in great detail.
During the trial, Daniel's father's legal team revealed his shocking defence for the abuse Daniel had suffered.
He had said that the reason it came about was because they wanted to steer me away from being homosexual and show me the right way. And all it done was confuse me to know who I really was, give me immense trauma and behavioural problems, I guess, through the years. And I ended up being homosexual anyway.
The main protagonist in this situation is Annette. The sexual abuse would not have occurred without her. Did she groom Daniel's father? That's probably likely. Did she convince him that conversion therapy in this sick way that they started was the way in which to change Daniel? However, for me, that doesn't explain the level of participation.
Daniel's father was sentenced for 5 years. Annette Breakspear was found guilty of 3 accounts of indecent assault, including assault by penetration, and was served an 8-year jail sentence.
There isn't a time frame in which she could get that would make me accept her punishment as a way of everything that I've experienced. The only thing I can get from it is she's finally got the consequences for her actions.
Foster mother Eunice tortured Christopher and his siblings.
Now, thank goodness he was intelligent enough to do what I tell all of you men to do. Record everything. Because nobody really cares about you. Not even your own wife.
In the name of God, but it was her religion that led to her downfall.
What saved us from Eunice was my sister was still going to church. One of the Jehovah's Witnesses just asked her blank, what is she doing to you? And at that point, I think Victoria broke down and told the whole story. The Jehovah's Witnesses spirited Victoria away, put her in a safe house. The police were called, and the police picked me up.
I'd never dealt with a case this extreme before. Nothing at all had come across quite as horrendous as this case was.
Detective Constable Victoria Martell took the call when the abuse was first reported and saw the case through to court.
The first time that I met Christopher, I think he found it quite difficult at first to open up to me, to tell his story or to talk about things, because he hadn't been used to talking to people in the outside world.
But Christopher, along with all his siblings, were brave enough to give detailed accounts of their abuse.
The victims described certain items that had been used for the abuse, some of which were chair legs or just like a bamboo stick to hit them with, but also put down their throats. When the police went to the farmhouse, they found the sticks exactly where the children described them, which was behind, I think it was the living room door. And there were several sticks there, so they were all seized. And we did find marks on the stick which were consistent with teeth marks. And I believe that they were sort of blood-stained as well.
Her empire of deceit, her empire of control was slowly crumbling away from the bottom.
The children may have led the police to the key piece of evidence, but when it came to court, would the jury be drawn in by Eunice and her public persona? Eunice Spry had built a reputation as a caring foster mother, whose mission was to save vulnerable children. When she went to court in 2007, she denied all the allegations of child abuse Christopher and his siblings made against her.
She just said that these things didn't happen. She doesn't know why that they've made these dreadful allegations about her. She was very animated when she gave evidence in court herself, and giving these wonderful stories about how lovely life was in their home. So she sort of painted a picture that everything was happy and fine, and she did her best as a mother.
Even though Christopher was 18,
my mother couldn't do that. I wasn't raised by my mother. I was raised in the temporary foster care system. Some of those foster homes are really bad. You can't tell on them, though. Who are you going to tell? You don't have a telephone. The 1980s were hell. We had horrible women in the 1980s. Wanted to pretend that burning their bras meant that women couldn't be predators. And we've come to find recently that women are more likely to be predators in every single category. physical, sexual, filicide. That's right, your most likely predator is your own mother. But the most likely person to be convicted is a man. Nobody wants to convict a woman. Nobody wants to deal with the ostracization by the man-haters. They don't want to have their lives destroyed.
He still struggled with the power Eunice had over him.
The first few weeks of the court case were very hard on me because it felt very wrong putting her through that court case. She's my mum. But the sentencing told me how serious this was. When a judge sits there and says this is the worst case he's ever sat on, it's a light bulb moment. You're like, she wasn't a mum to us.
I love you.
A mum is someone you can go to at your weakest point and be cherished, be nourished, be accepted.
My mother never did that for me. But after Nellie died, my little brother, Michael Allen Albert, got into trouble for raping his own stepdaughter. And my mom helped my little brother to get away with it.
Eunice used those weaknesses against us.
I'd never dealt with a case to this magnitude before, and it's important for me to see the whole case through and to take it through to court and get the result for those victims, having spent a horrific childhood with this woman who's supposed to protect them.
Eunice Spry was convicted of 26 charges of abuse and was sentenced to 14 years.
Eunice did everything to destroy us. And through all that hell she's put me through, she's failed.
Christopher is now happily married and is a youth worker, helping the same kind of children he once was.
I am going to survive this. And that is the greatest, 2 fingers up to her. That is the greatest, that will piss her off the most. The fact that we're not suffering now.
No happiness.
Of course, I don't have a family. I never did.
Hello.
Just shift from one place to another.
Daniel is Skyping his best friend Tanya, who helps him come to terms with the conviction of his father.
Am I wrong in thinking that he should give me some sort of remorse on his part, because to explain himself or at least to apologise?
He's had 25 years to apologise. You should think, I'm not going to get any remorse from him because he's had plenty of opportunity. I don't think it's an apology you want. I'm not sure what it is you want. You want something, you want him to actually be genuine with it, and you're not going to get it, mate. So chasing it, you're just going to do your own head in.
So Tanya is my best friend. She has been my biggest supporter as regards trying to get my closure, if you like.
You never...
My best friend was Natalie Bollinger. You killed her for being my friend.
He may come out of prison. Prison might have triggered something in his head. And he may come out and go, do you know what? I am so sorry. But, I mean, he's probably not going
No, but I won't.
You may not need to chase him.
I won't have a relationship with when he comes out of prison. That's something I've quite clear. I'm still not completely over it. There are still parts of me that is still very angry to both of them, but as a whole, you know, I'm in a better place. And if I can encourage other people to come forward purely through my story, then I feel like the pain was all worth it. All right, babes. Love you lots. See you later.
The difference between all of these people and myself, none of these people are homeless. None of them are alone. None of them would have gotten any help if it hadn't been for women who gave a shit. But you literally have to force them to give a shit.
Has built himself an army of friends who continue to help him battle the effects of his trauma and the pending prison release of his father.
What was the first living creature to go into space? A monkey, a dog, or a cockroach?
A monkey?
No. It was a dog.
I was going to that.
Yeah, but you didn't. You said monkey.
It's a dog.
Katrina's childhood was full of fear and misery. A world a million miles away from the life she has created for her daughter, Madison.
I wanted nothing more in the world but my daughter. And I was so lucky and blessed to have a little girl, and I always wanted a little girl. And she's amazing. Do you think I'm a good mum?
Yeah.
Why?
Because you make my room.
I make your room?
Yeah.
And the first time I held my little girl in my arms, the love was so overwhelming. I couldn't comprehend the emotions that I was feeling, this overwhelming love and protection for my child, because I'd not...
Women are taught to withhold love if they don't get what they want. That means that it's not love. It's just abuse.
I had that. I'd not received that from my mum.
What does it mean to sing a cappella?
Oh, the girls with Fat Amy. Oh.
So what's the answer?
Sing without instruments.
Yes.
Yes. I shower my child, my daughter, with absolute love. We have a really good relationship. I would die for my daughter. I would kill for her. Say you had to write a story or a description about your mum at school. What would you write about me?
I love you.
I grew up in hell. I study the why and how. I have to relive the trauma every time I try to get help. But if I don't get someone to actually help, I have to endure more abuse until something with tits gives a shit. Andrew Wolnez is a world-class piece of shit. May he roast in hell. But I'm not the one who's going to send him there. I want him in prison with Officer Tony Lothman, Tillamook Sheriff's Deputy Mike Reeves also belongs in prison. Officer Timothy Sadler, Officer Martinez, Officer Trent Olson, fuck all of you, I will see you in prison. Or I will fucking die trying. You disgusting sicko piece of shit.